for now. And they're both like, what, early 20? I think Time just turned like 20 or 21 or something like that. Still a very young player, still got a good future ahead of him. And Serral, yeah, he's in his early 20s, mate, and he's a former world champion. This one, though, Katowice, it's one that's eluded him for quite some time now.
It really has. It has been the, I mean, some say the black mark on Serral's immaculate record, especially for his big winning streak, which was so incredible. It was unparalleled. No one has really ever come close to anything of that level of dominance. But Katowice is where it effectively, you know, had to begin at, and it was also where it ended at. It was basically the tournament that eluded him in terms of being able to win it. And Serral, he's looking really good so far this tournament and in this group stages. He's gotten a lot of hype from a lot of players also coming into the event. I am ecstatic to see how he faces off against Time in this series.
Yeah, me too. Like, ZVT is absolutely a matchup where it comes down to speed, pace, precision, calculation. And these guys, they've both, well, I mean, Serral, saying that his ZVT is now getting to the level of his ZVP, which we know he has had the best ZVP in the world for the last few years, dismantling players such as Trap when he's been on tip-top form, just never falters. And that DreamHack season finals a few months back, it was just, the tournament was boring because Serral was just better than everybody else. He just absolutely demolished everybody, and it was like, oh, I guess that happened. But here, going up against Time, this is going to be a different story, because when these two do duke it out, it's always a wonder to behold. And I just hope that Time does deliver here, because we all know he's really good, and it'd be so lovely for him to be able to actually and finally get a win against Serral.
I will actually say, because it's not like this is the first match that these players are playing today. We did get to see on the B stream, or I think the C stream, that Time was playing that series versus Dark. And the first game that he played versus Dark was a 27-minute crazy great match. Lots of action everywhere. We had Nidus rooms coming up, and I think one of the consistent things that I definitely picked up from Time, even though he ended up losing that series overall, the way he lost was mostly to, ironically, timing attacks, effectively, from Dark. But when it went to like the longer stage macro game, his multitasking and just micro and attention to detail across all of the different forms of harassment, everything Dark would throw at him, was so on point. I was really impressed with that. So if he goes to the later stages versus Serral, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Oh, absolutely. This game so far kicking off with very orthodox builds. Time went for a bit of a scout while going for a 3cc behind it off 1 gas. Serral, on the other hand, doing very normal Zerg things as well, but going for that Overlord speed very early on, meaning that, hey, I'm going to find out exactly what's going on, and then I'll be prepared. Obviously, you can skip it out a little bit, but if you're a player like Serral, no point skipping any corners. Cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and you'll be in good shape. And now he gets a full-on scout of exactly what's happening. Oh, Banshee. I wonder if it will be a cloak, because this kind of was an old-schooly style where you used to go like a bit of a safety Banshee. But you always have to respect your opponent when you see a Banshee, because if you don't get those Spore Crawlers down, and it turns out this cloak, well, the game's over.
That is definitely not a position that you'd want to see Serral finding himself in, but the Overlord stuck around in there for quite a bit of time, so it would be pretty difficult for him to have delayed Cloak for so long and then decide to go for it much later. So we end up seeing that Time is not going to end up coming to it, and there's even a second Overlord that comes back in, gets the full scout off again, and gets out of there, since there's effectively really only one Marine to try and push anything back. Yeah,
such a nuisance when you're a Terran player. You can't do anything about those Overlords besides get a Viking out, and even then, you maybe get one and everything runs back home. But it does remove quite a bit of vision, can allow space to open up for drops and stuff, and he did showcase Cloak was being researched the last time Serral went in there, so Serral will have to respect that, because even though you might think it's a 200 IQ move not getting the spores, you look so daft when you do, not forget them, but just don't place them down. So yeah, we're going to see Serral indeed respect it, get a nice and early lair, the Baneling Nest as well. So going for the old school Korean approach where you're getting the Baneling speed before the Evo chambers.
And of course, during all of this, those Hellions are going to be doing their usual poking and prodding around the map, looking for any creep tumors. And this is definitely one of those points in the game where the creep gets to spread in a lot of different, very far away pathways. So it's hard for the Hellions to shut down the creep in every single angle. What we oftentimes end up seeing as a Terran player is really just trying to focus in on one kind of particular area and opening up that pathway for some kind of pushes later down the line.
Spire on the way for Serral, and he's only on 1 Evo, so most likely going to be going for that Carapace upgrade first, along with Mutalis and what have you. Serral scouting so far, though, pretty damn immaculate, and hasn't taken any damage whatsoever from these Hellions. It's going to be up to Time to find out what he's up against, though, because Mutas, they can get out of control very quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so far, it really has just been the minor pokes and prods on the front lines from Time with the Hellions. So he hasn't gotten super deep into Serral's main base or anything. The Banshee was sticking around at home. So there's not really a lot of that extra information gathering. The Overlord Hunter, basically, the Viking, hasn't even really been able to find a whole lot as it's been darting around. But it does feel like Time is kind of in the dark right now.
Kind of cool, by the way. I remember TLO doing this a while ago with the Overlord spreading like ahead of the creep line just to help the creep spread faster. Serral doing it to not as crazy an extent. You know, there wasn't an Overlord and a Queen walking to the middle of the map, but I like that. A little bit of extra, getting that creep spread out, and it makes a lot of sense against a player that's as aggressive as Time, because like that creep, not only does it help your units get out faster and move quicker and help you with the engagements, also gives you vision. Oh, nice lift up there. That could have been already very, very dicey.
This is exactly what I meant when I said I feel like Time was so on point with responding to the different forms of aggression that Dark was throwing at him. It was exactly moments like that where Time was just so good about making sure he was ready to react to anything that was being thrown his way. Nice cleanup on all those active creep tumors, gets all of those creep tumors and gets on out of there, but the Queens getting to immediately to the edge of the creep are able to respread that without really too much loss.
This is actually a lot harder to do for Serral than you think, because being able to deflect that attack and also get the creep spread there to the 4th while taking a 5th behind it. Mutas are out. He made getting to Muta look very, very easy, but it's absolutely not. And the resource loss tab, I don't think either one of them have really lost too much, and I say that as the Mutas fly in and no turrets are ready. And this is Serral with these units. These are hard to deal with.
You see missile turrets being started up as the Mutas have already entered the mineral lines, and it's not the ideal spot for Time right now. Serral is going to be able to get out of here safely with most of those Mutas, unless he decides to dive back into another location. He could go over to this third base, going to try and just find a gas geyser, but even just forcing out some stims is nice. He does bleed off one Muta over there, but I love that we also see all these Lings on this left-hand side getting ready for an opportunity. He's setting up Lings on the south side. Already see the gears turning for how Serral wants to collapse in on some opportunities.
Yeah, you can really see that, and those Lings at the top of the map, they are over there, and that depot lifting, and yet again, you can feel the Time was reacting very, very nicely to all that. The upgrade's still not alive for Serral here for the 1-1. Banelings, granted, they don't care too much, and there's not a hell of a lot of Widowmines. In fact, just a couple of tanks in this army. This Time has to be careful with how deep he is on creep.
He really does not mind going very far under creep, and maybe he feels like he's pressured to and he has to do something right now after the Mutas are able to make that dive in and pick off so many units. Muta's going to be coming in from behind, Marines stimming back and trying to take care of those. The Siege Tanks leading the charge in the front lines against the Lings and the Banelings. More reinforcements for him. Time are coming in though, and do manage to at least push Serral back, but I mean, I think Serral is just backing off because there's not enough creep anymore. He's already cleaned up the tanks and this army is stimmed to death.
That was actually a surprising amount of Mutas that fell there. They took a large amount of hits from all those Marines, and now the 1-1 finishes for Serral. So Time taking that fight when he did, it was actually very, very good for him. Yeah, 9 Mutas falling. That's already a serious investment being lost straight away for Serral.
And it's definitely going to be some nice damage he's able to do, keeping that Muta count in check. We already see a couple more Mutas had to be remade there for Serral. And behind that, it is all just going to be drones on the way. We have +1 flyer attacks also coming on out. So it does seem like Serral wants to continue investing into consistent Muta control, not just a sort of light presence of the Mutas.
No, absolutely. +1 coming alive now for these Mutas, so they are definitely a little bit stronger. Time's army definitely getting more complex though. The Widowmines are now drilling claws, he's got the Thors on the way, and 2-2 is finishing up. If this is old school TVZ, which it kind of looks at this point, we're going to see a lot of pushing with these upgrades coming into the fray, but Time going to take a 5th base. He's definitely playing the more methodical approach of just being okay with sitting back a little bit, but honestly, there hasn't been much of a window for him to do anything.
Yeah, he's been trying to push in different angles. He's been trying to find some opportunity, but there really hasn't been a lot of opportunities presented to him outside of trying to take fights with the army itself. There haven't been any points in time where Serral was actually endangered of losing some drones or anything like that. We haven't seen any big drop attempts. As I say that, double medevac drop does load up. Heads into the main base for the moment, maybe just to help deal with potential of those mutas diving on in.
They've both been very good with their upgrades, by the way. Like every time that Time has an upgrade available, he's just like, boom, boom, start my 3-3. Gets his armory upgrades on the way as well, going for armor, given that benefits absolutely every unit that he has. But Serral, on the other hand, given that he started his upgrades much later, you might be thinking, oh, he forgot them, right? No, no, no. He just wanted to get out the nice defensive gas-heavy units quickly. And look at his mineral bank as well. Like, he's getting into a really nice, comfortable zone here as a Zerg player, along with getting his Hive and the Burr upgrade. Like, he's getting to late-game Zerg now, and that's so scary.
I mean, frankly, even if you just look at the map right now, the creep spread absolutely bonkers in every angle except for the small little sliver that Time has been trying to push through, and even that is not doing too shabby. Muta's going to be diving in very deep into both the Thor as well as all of those missile turrets. They end up having to just go into that kind of dead airspace for a little bit of safety, but the same moment, Time is going to be pushing in through that same angle. He keeps trying to make his way through. Widowmine's also involved in the charge, and we are going to see those Banelings try to move forward, but realizing he's going to need to wait for just a few more units.
Oh, I mean, there's 26 Banelings morphing right there, and I love the way that Serral's engaging this, just throwing ahead these Banelings, watching out for all the Widowmines. Time with his army still standing pretty strong, using the Thors and the Marauders to tank where he can, and these Banelings, they could clean the whole thing up if it was in one splodge, but Serral's doing this without his mutas on the field.
Yeah, I'm trying to wonder where the mutas even are right now. Are they still? They can't just still be in the dead airspace at this point, right?
I mean, I have no idea where they are, but supply is not dropping for Serral, and this army for Time also, it's lasting, and it's here. It's going to have 3-3 very soon. This is a moment where they're equal on upgrades, so this is the fight for Serral to take, and that is a huge swarm of Zerg just enveloping the army of Time, and he's having to run away, and Serral's chasing him down, even off creep here.
The medevac's boost is going to be running out of speed very shortly, and that's where the mutas are going to find a lot more value and trying to punish the retreat over here, snagging a couple of those before finally retreating back as he gets the end of Time's reinforcements. +3/+3 is about to finish up, like you said, and that means that Time's army is going to be a lot stronger, but he just lost so much army supply. What army is really going to benefit from it right now? It's a lot smaller of a benefit.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And Serral is aware that Time was taking a 5th base on this right side of the map. And as the Terran expands, you might be like, oh, okay, getting 5 bases, that's good. But that's just one extra spot for a Zerg to really pressure and punish. And look at that production tab for both of them. Big upgrades coming online now, but all those Zerg ones, those are hella scary.
Indeed they are. Baneling run by is also going to be able to put some pressure onto this planetary. The Banelings soften up the planetary. The mutas finish it off, so that's 1 base down. Time immediately replaces it with another one of the extra command centers he had laying around. The other one's going to be turning into an orbital. Baneling's getting ready to run over to this planetary, but it looks like the Bioforce is just a little bit too large. Serral does not want to end up committing those Banelings with the Bioforce around, so instead, goes for the direct army engagement, and it looks like he's actually not doing too shabby, despite a really good split there from Time.
Time is definitely trading efficiently in some of these fights. Like, he absolutely is. That Widowmine at the front as well. Captured up a bunch of units, they all clumped up, and the Widowmines blew up everything. But this is kind of where Serral's supposed to be. His army isn't meant to trade super efficiently. He's just meant to be able to make more of it. And soon, I just hope that Time can hold on, because right now he's got the upgrade lead. It's not going to get better before it gets worse.
+3 melee is about to finish up, and I think thankfully for Time, the Carapace upgrade is a little bit further behind. Another Widowmine is not going to be going off. Serral decides to back up and just continues the pressure with some more of these Adrenal Glandlings that are about to get that +3 melee upgrade as well. I also love that Serral has taken the top left-hand base, which frankly does feel like it's a little bit on Time's side of the map, but hey, if Serral can get that going, because he hasn't really been pressured all that much at his actual bases, and more power to a Baneling bomb. Oh,
well, that was anticlimactic. Yeah. I mean, they went right over it. That would have been beautiful for Serral, and they're just avoiding that scan as well. Maybe next time, maybe next time. But does at least give him a little bit of vision here as to what army he's up against.
I love that the Baneling bomb is right next to the Widowmines now as well.
Oh!
Finally, Serral gets a run by past that pesky depot. Widowmine does clean up a majority of the Lings, but the Banelings still got something to say about this.
They certainly do. Not a lot of SCVs left at this base, but this just keeps Time back home. Where is his army out on the map? It's here. It has to deal with this right here, right now. And those upgrades coming alive for Serral, +3 Carapace. Now he's going to be fighting on even keel when it comes to upgrades. And I don't think we've seen any ultras in the fights yet. I'm not even sure if Time knows about them for sure, but that's quite a healthy number already on the field.
That's a very scary number, and the big problem for Time is that it feels like a lot of Serral's fights have been with the units that are going to be great for trying to push Time back a little bit further, but the Ultras are the units that if he can get them in on top of that Bioforce, he will be able to win direct fights with more than just overwhelming numbers. It's going to be overwhelming power. Time really needs to make something happen sooner rather than later, or Serral's just going to continue to be able to build up the bank of all of these different bases.
What's the resources lost about here? Because Time, I mean,
he's been efficient.
Yeah, he's been definitely efficient, but this is just brute force from Serral at this point, and his supply hasn't dropped below 170 for the past few minutes, and he's been taking constant fights with Time as well. This is nice spreading, nice splitting, and actually, he kind of holds him off, does Time, but look at the low health on these Thors. Like, he's been microing his butt off to try and keep these alive, and the raw power of his army, significantly less.
Yeah, the Mutas have also been continuing to harass inside that main base, keeping some of the reinforcements back at home, and like you said, Time doesn't feel like that army on the other side of the map has a lot of longevity unless it's able to pull back, heal up, possibly even repair up some of those Thors. In the meanwhile, Serral had that bank and he spent it. So now the mineral bank no longer there for Serral. Still has a little bit of a gas bank, and so does Time. But the difference is one of these players is definitely ahead in army supply compared to the other.
Yeah, it's impressive that Time's moving up to his 6th base now, but it's also because he hasn't been able to slow down the progress of any of Serral's bases. So even though you're on 6, looks like Serral's what, closing on 8, 9 right now, which that is not a good position to be in. Normally, if you're a Terran, you want to be 1 behind at most, but this started to get gnarly for our Chinese player.
Serral taking the 2nd top left-hand base is just getting a little bit ridiculous for me, but that's getting a little bit too crazy. But these Mutas and these Lings continue to draw forces back to the main base, while Time is also centering all of his forces at the top right, or sorry, the bottom right. It makes a lot of sense to take the top left-hand bases. Those are the safest bases in some ways.
Absolutely, because Time, he's had no business being in that top left point. There's been no reason to go there. And I love this, by the way. Time knows that Ultras are on the field, so he's been trying to make nothing but Marauders, basically. But then he comes and counterattacks with Zerglings and Mutas, which, you know, Marauders are not going to do well against that. So these Mutas have been a 200 IQ move.
Stellar job from Serral. Sends even more of these Lings on forward. The Thors, the Medivacs all coming back home to try and help out, but these are the low health Thors. I don't think they want to fight directly against the Adrenal Gland Lings. And in the meanwhile, Time's attack in the bottom right has all but effectively just stalled out. He's cleaned up all the creep down there, but this attack is not progressing because he's just so busy dealing with the attacks in his main base.
Really, really clean play from Serral, and he's getting a big bank with it. That's a lot of minerals, a lot of gas. I won't be surprised soon if he just makes a ton of Banelings, because he's got a lot of money to spend, and maybe he's starting to have enough of this, Time being in his face on the map, and maybe he wants to close him out for once and for all.
Here we go. We're going to see another stim up from these units. The Banelings come rolling on in, and there is almost nowhere left for the Bio to run. So many of them have to die in exchange for that, and while Serral can afford it, it doesn't feel like Time is going to be able to afford it for too much longer if things progress at this particular rate. The more Lings on the way for Serral, and the scan comes down as Time realizes, wait a second, you're definitely starting to take some of my bases. I need to do something about your bases on the other side of the map, but just can't get there in time.
This is very nice Q play by Time as well. Like, that's a big group of Marauders. He was trying to snipe these Ultras, but look at Serral. He knows that Time wants to push him in the top right, and he's just like, all right, I'm gonna get between all your rally points over here. I'm gonna make your life as difficult as possible. And right now, taking pretty good trades is Serral, because let's be real, any fight that he takes where they're both losing out on units, it's a good one for him. Has to be careful about those Thors, though.
Yeah, the Thors against these Mutas, or even the Widow Mines, actually, I love the positioning of those Widow Mines inside the main base. He was covering a lot of the production, which is what Serral has oftentimes been going after in these situations. And those Thors, I wouldn't mind if he healed or repaired up one of those low health Thors, but they have definitely been finding some value.
You know you're rich when you can go for the 2 Lurker Den tech switch to get Adaptive Talons and Seismic Mines just that little bit quicker. Granted, they're not going to have the upgrades needed, but it's not as if Serral is a sucker for money and out of money. And that's definitely a tech switch that you don't expect when you're going up against Muta, Ultra Bane. Just crazy.
I mean, Ben, I want to ask you a question. What do you feel like in this situation? Time has had a lot of trouble pushing into the right angle and getting the damage done. I feel like he's finally starting to hit that point where he is able to break through. This is the first time in a long time he's been able to be even up close to a hatchery. what is the most effective target for him to hit? Because I feel like base count, even killing off 2 bases, I'm not even sure it will be that effective.
The problem for Time is that he's gone for a playstyle that's saying, hey, I'm going to test you, Serral. I'm going to test you at a portion of the game that I know you're phenomenal at. And Serral's like, okay, buddy, let's go. And they're just going all the way. But I feel that for Serral, he's welcoming the challenge. And Time's definitely pushing him quite a bit and doing a good job. But I feel every little moment that goes by, even though I'm seeing a lot of units dying on the Zerg side, this is just Serral's playground.
It is so tough to compete with this. Baneling Bomb does go off, gets all of the Marines, only the Marauders left over to fight against the Adrenal Gland Lings. Looks like it will be enough with the Medivacs healing on up there, but this is a cool move. I like that Time is actually just saying, I have been pushing the bottom right this entire game. I'm going to take the bottom right base. And that is exactly where his latest expansion is. I think that is one that Serral has not really been mining a whole lot from, so it is a fresher base as well.
This might be the first game where I'm going to see not just Ultras, Lurkers, but also Broodlords in the mix, which, you know, just dealing with one of those units is a bit tricky now and then, Ravi. You know, some people say Ultras suck, I disagree. But, yeah, we only just have a Ghost Academy coming down for Time, and that is definitely one way to claw your way back into a game, but he's spread so thin, and oh my goodness, Serral's launching the big attack here. I think this is the one where he really wants to kill Time.
Oh, the Lurkers are going to make this so complicated. This is the big game changer compared to all the previous engage. Oh, okay. It is such a game changer that all of the barracks in production lift off for Time as he abandons ship on his main and says, I just need to go for it. But he's trying to go for it through these Transfusing Queens and the Lurkers, which are actually still buying time and killing off even just small scraps of units. Serral has so many hatcheries that he is still going to be able to replenish those units with his bank, and Time's just not going to have the same deal with all of his production in the air.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you look at this now, it's like, okay, there's a base tray going off, which is really exciting. The thing is, Serral can still produce everything. Look at Time's production, 1 Marine at a time. That is not going to cut it. 15 more drones do 4, but that is a lot of Zerg, and that's high-tech Zerg as well. Lings wrapping around the units. Serral even coming from the north here. The Ultras running, the Lurkers as well, outrunning all the bio, and Time. There's no time left.
Serral takes the first game in what can only be described as just extremely solid late game play. Out-expanding his opponent, literally almost at the point where it felt like it was at the point he was hitting 15 bases to 4. It was not that bad, but it was starting to feel like it was just getting ridiculous. He was starting to take more and more of Time's side of the map as time went on.
It was really good play by Serral, just everything. Like, if you're a Zerg player looking to learn how to play, just everything he did. He didn't cut corners at all. And that's one thing that I've always admired Serral for, that he knows when to put his foot on the pedal, but he also knows, okay, I think I'm better, I know I'm better, and then every move that he makes is just about retaining this lead that in his mind he obviously has, because he's as gifted as he is. And I loved it right from start to finish. The Overlord speed, just continually checking what was going on. Wasn't getting too tricked at all. Got the creep spread out and running. And just, when you're playing Mutiling Bane, it's so hard to flip the switch where you're under pressure and then you get to do stuff with your mutas. But he did it effortlessly. It was really well done.
I think that is a great point to also bring up as we get ready to move into game number 2, because when you're up against a player who is not cutting those corners on scouting you out, and you had a game like that where you just were trying to play that ultra late game thing, things weren't quite working out the way you were hoping, and you start thinking, okay, maybe I should open up with more of like a big pressure play, something really committed that will do a lot of damage in the early game and change up the way this game is going, because that late game is looking really scary right now. And then you remember about the Overlord speed and how adamant Serral is about continuing to get the scouting information and being able to react to everything. It's like, well, is that even going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just thinking about everything. Like, there was even that one fight in the bottom right at one point where he lost like a good 8 or so mutas, which definitely wasn't that good for Serral, but it didn't phase him whatsoever. Like, he was very decisive about what he wanted to do next, and it isn't going to get any easier for that man over in the bottom left. But spawning over in the top right, playing for Team Ents, it is Serral.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have our blue Terran player from KaiZ Gaming. He is Time.
Always makes me wonder what these players are going to start bringing out once they've, you know, been thwarted quite so forcefully, because in my head, I remember when I lost a game, it was like, bringing out the 2-racks now, you know? And very often we've seen these Zerg players kind of go to the default, okay, I'm going to go pool first just because I understand I owned you that hard. And that game was pretty decent, actually. Like, I do think Time definitely pushed Serral a little bit, at least got to test his ZVT a little. But yeah, he's looking good. I almost forgot about Serral when I was talking about favorites for this tournament, and he's making me realize that I was absolutely wrong. Like, he's playing so good again, and it's absolutely wonderful to see. It's just a super cool reminder that even when he's off my radar, he absolutely shouldn't be.
I think it's also really cool that it is in the same ways as before, right? The things that made Serral so scary was that he was so solid, was that you saw him not cutting those corners because he knew it was just so good, especially as the game went on, that he would be able to handle any kind of deficits he took in the earlier stages of the game just fine. He would be comfortable with that anyways.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. This game on Hardwire starting off very, very standard here. Both players doing the expansion build. Time didn't go for an SV Scout this game, which is a little corner you cut to some degree, but I don't hate it. When you're up against a guy like Serral, any corner you can cut, maybe it's one that's worth going for.
Yeah, it is funny to mention because I do think Serral has been mixing in more of those, you know, early all-ins, whether it be like the Ling Roach all-ins and whatnots that I think we even saw him do maybe earlier today. It's been a crazy, crazy 2 days of StarCraft already. I think some of the stuff is already starting to blend together, but it is fun to see that Serral is willing to mix in some of those all-ins. You have to respect it, but at some point you also got to just kind of say, well, look, I know he's probably not going to do it every game. Let's just limit what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, yeah, Serral's play has definitely been like going in a time machine all over again. Like, without LAN for a while, then it's like, oh, what's happening? But then I come back to LAN, it's like, oh yeah, Serral's winning again.
It just picked up where he left off.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a little bit of time off for all these players, but I think Serral's one of these guys that he doesn't let it phase him too much, you know, playing on the stage and whatnot. Like, he knows he has a job to do, and he's done all the practice, he's done all the homework, and now it's time for him to perform and really show what he's made of, and he's doing just that. And it feels like in a few of these interviews and stuff as well that he's almost like, people have forgot about me. Like, no, I'm here to win. I'm going to do my absolute best, and anything but winning is going to be a disappointment for me.
Yeah, there's a wonderful TL.net interview where exactly he's saying that he's saying, I think you guys are kind of underestimating me right now. I feel like I should be a little bit more of a favorite than I am right now, but interesting decision over here. We do have Serral throwing down the Roach Warren.
It is interesting, Ravi. Very interesting. And you were pointing out that he is the kind of guy that he isn't linear. This isn't like Snoot just being solid all the time. This is Snoot that also, I don't know, like just absorbed another superhero's powers and just took both of them on at the same time. And this is something you have to find out very quick about. By the way, everything that is in production right now for Time, it's not actually good against Roaches
No,
whatsoever.
they're not. The Viking is not going to do very well versus the Roaches. The Widowmines are going to do pretty poorly versus the Roaches unless, you know, they got literally every single Roach with the AoE, and then there's still nothing else to clean up the Roaches after that. It's not looking too good for Time, and he's going to miss. Okay, that was some beautiful maneuvering with the Queens from Serral, and even just buying that extra 6 or so seconds, and then catching these units on the retreat, just lowering a little bit more DPS. The bunkers are coming down, the Widowmines are burrowed, but is this truly going to be enough to hold off Serral's wrath?
It's going to be ridiculously hard. Like, whenever you don't open up a Banshee, you're in trouble. And here, that's quite a lot of Roaches. It isn't a super all-in, by the way. And by the way, using one Roach to absorb both those shots, absolutely beautiful, given that they do survive with just a little bit of health. And look at that. Again, I mean, there's maybe a bit much going into the Ravager there, but Time's in a lot of trouble here. And this is just kind of a little bit of a build or loss, and maybe Serral's thinking at this point, man, I wish I went even more all-in with this, because we see back at home, he's not all-in at all.
Yeah, Serral could have been like, well, I guess I just have a little bit more time between my matches if he had been able to just commit harder to this. But he's still going to have gotten some good damage done, already forcing out a couple of worker kills, killing off a majority of the army, though. Killing off 4 Widowmines when this is what the Terran was going for is going to be the big deal here.
Yeah, because you look at that and it's like, oh, only 3 SCVs died? That's not that bad. But those 4 Widowmines were wanting to be used for something. And Time had to resort to making a Banshee because it's like, oh my god, am I going to die? But they all got cleaned up. That was stuff that he wanted to slow Serral down with. And now it's like, whoa, damn. He just absolutely shut me down. And Serral, He's looking way prettier than he did in game 1, and he can just... We talked about that transition to mutas, right? Like, you normally have to hold off something to get into them and be the one that's being aggressive, but this game, he doesn't even have to do that. He's done it for him.
Yeah, this is a situation where normally at this point in the game, Terran players are thinking about how to put on a little bit of pressure and keeping the Zerg player honest. And the Zerg player is saying, how do I make as many drones or as much tech and stuff as possible without dying? Right now, that without dying part just got stripped off the menu. He doesn't have to worry about dying at all because there's almost nothing really that can happen. Even the Viking going down, and there's really just the Banshee. The Banshee is the only real form of presence right now that Time has, and I gotta say, he's doing a damn good job making some value come out of that Banshee, despite the fact that it was probably scouted at this point, but it's not going to kill Serral. It's just going to try and keep him honest. Even that goes down, and Serral just gets to run away with murder now.
Yeah, even seeing that it's going to be tanks in production here when he's going for Mutiling Bane, that's going to be an extra lick of the lips for Serral there, just realizing, wow, this is dessert time for me. And look at that. The supplies are very close, but Serral's built up a lot of resources, ready to get out a lot of mutas very, very quickly. And 7 already in the production tab. And here he just gets to kind of test out what his opponent's doing. He's going to be behind in upgrades, but that's like the only thing that he is behind in. And honestly, when you go Mutiling Baneling, that's what you expect anyway.
Well, this is going to be a interesting moment for Time to try and take advantage of those upgrades and try and make some way for this game to kind of start rolling a little bit further back in his favor. If he can make something happen over here, he's not behind in workers. He's been staying pretty on par with all the base counts and everything for a Terran player versus a Zerg, so there's an opportunity for him to come back. He's not dead by any means or way, shape, or form, but he needs to be ready for these mutas. He needs to be able to handle the situation.
Yeah, and he is in position for this first set of mutas, and he was fairly prepared, actually, which is nice for him. Already with the second factory about to complete as well. So it looks like, for all intents and purposes, Time's not going to take too much damage for this. You lose the reactor on this, though, definitely slows down your medevac production. That slows down your ability to be on the map, actually.
That's going to be painful, and also might end up losing another one of the medevacs, which is going to slow down medevac production even more. Loses a second one as well. Man, Serral knows how to really hammer a particular point.
Absolutely. He's like those boxers, you know. In fact, there was one thing where it's like, when you get hurt, never show them you're hurt. But when you're playing against Serral, you always have to show them you're hurt, because that kind of stuff, that's a lot of damage. And now he has to go about making the reactor again. How many medevacs are even on the field? I don't know at this point, but 2. You can't do much with 2 medevacs, Ravi.
Even these stims actually become very painful, because the stim has to be done to push back the mutas, just to push them back. But you now know it's going to take longer and more of the few remaining points of energy you have on your medevacs to even get those units back to full health. And we can see that the reactor has to be built again, which also is another delay on additional medevacs being built. He's still just sitting on 2 until the reactor is finishing and start up more.
Let's look at this from a macro perspective here. If we look at this vision of Serral, he's absorbing the map. Like, he's got free flow and has done for a while. There hasn't been a unit on his side of the map that can really do any damage. I mean, there's that Banshee earlier that he shut down, but he's been absolutely free to have the map how he wants. Time's worker count is seriously high, and he's got himself up to 4 bases, wants to take a 5th as well. So kind of a similar line of thought for him, but that's going to be a lot of Serral able to do whatever he wants, and holy crap, that's a lot of Banes.
That is going to be pretty difficult to deal with if he is not ultra prepared for the big Bane run by, and I assume one of the bases is going to try and just right-click down, while Time is very far focused on the front lines over here. But look at how stimmed up this army is right now. I'm actually a little worried that he's not going to be able to stim and react to the army of Serral moving on forward. SCV is trying to move into position to body block these Banelings from getting out on the planet, but there's just nothing you can do at that point.
Yeah, Serral has to be a little bit careful because he is out of bank here, just starting up his 2-2. Whereas Time, he's about to hit that 2-2 timing, which is awesome for him. Maybe that is his go-to, because that was 30-ish Banelings that were spent killing that PF.
Yeah.
Serral might be sweating a little bit here.
This is going to be an important moment. Serral does have a lot of creep to rely on to just buy a little bit more of breathing room. And Muta is also trying to pull this army back and is forcing, again, additional stims. He's going for these counterattacks with the Lings. The Time is not pulling all the way back with more than just half of his army right now. He's just pulling back enough that he feels like he can get back into position and continue pushing forward, but he's left a lot of his army over here to clean up creep and try to continue the push as fast as possible.
Serral's doing this beautifully, man. He is truly the puppet master. He knows how he wants Time to play, which is to stay back, stay away. But he also knows Time has to get up this fourth base with how he's playing. And the production tab is all in favor of Serral right now. And Serral knows that if you push onto creep, he's going to bomb you with these Banelings. Beautiful, beautiful. Just, great management by Serral.
Lings are going to come swarming on in. Siege tanks are going to be taken care of on the front line. Serral is forced back over here, but he has put Time in an ultra all-in position. Time is going to be able to find this base, and Serral actually willingly sacrifices it to Time. Even this other hatchery is probably going to be in a little bit of danger, which will bring Serral down to 4 bases, but Serral is still brutalizing the remaining bases of Time. Serral still has some economy to fall back to. Time does not anymore.
No, he doesn't. He's down to 1 mining base at this point. All his SVs are done-zoed, and he has to fight on creep against his opponent, and it's only going to get worse. He has to keep on going, but it feels like you're running into a wall at this point. You can see the frustration in Time's face, a big exhalation as he knows his time is up in this game. 87 drones still alive, and he's just getting cleaned up absolutely everywhere. Masterclass from the Finnish Phenom.
Joona Satala is back, ladies and gentlemen. 2-0 for Serral. Immaculate play. Honestly, inspiring.